Hello, hello. Okay, this time I have sound, y'all. Because the last two times I went live, no sound. This time I'm looking at it, I've got sound. You can hear me, right? Just double checking because if I didn't and I was saying all that, oh my goodness. Just. Okay, hi Sarah. Hi Betty. Hello, hello. Celine. All right. So we're going to be doing some more sketching today. If you've been with my lives for the last few days, we've been sketching with Procreate on the iPad and even on the iPhone. So you can check out those replays if you haven't seen them. But they are all using our new sketching tools for Procreate, which you can find at cakeandcookieplanner.com. I'm in love with them because they're my babies. You know, when you have babies, you make something, you love it. So I love them. I hope you guys do too. Super excited. Okay. Yay. Karine said she's actually got the app. Yay. Okay. And Betty is confirming that we have. That's right. We have sound, y'all. Betty did a sketch today. She did yesterday's sketch and it was awesome. So they can be done, guys. They can be done. All right. So today we're going to be doing watercolor on digital watercolor, right? So it's not watercolor on paper, but it's digital watercolor because one of the things Procreate's really good at is kind of mimicking real life paint, right? So we can create a very styled look. So if your brand is something that would incorporate watercolor styles very well, and that's a way you can present yourself to your clients, this could be a really cool episode for you. So let's take a look at what we're going to be creating. Can't do this on here. Boop, boop, doop, doop. All right. Got my drink over here. So this is what we're going to be creating today. If you zoom in, you can see there's actually a paper texture happening on the watercolor. And we've just got some really cool mock looking watercolor, right? So let's get started. If you are part of the Cake and Cookie Planner group, you will note that I do have all the downloads for this project, which is the color palette and then the paper texture inside a Dropbox folder that I did share in there. So if you want to work along, you can. If you can't keep up with me, it's not a problem at all. You can always watch the replay. And with the replay, you can rewind and stop and all that. I don't want to go too slow because, you know, I don't want to bore the people that are just watching. So, oh, yay, Sarah, that's so great to hear. Oh, Sarah, you're going to love Procreate just as an artist because I know you're an amazing artist. You're going to love it, but for cake sketching for sure and cookie sketching. So, yay. So no, Procreate is not on the Surface Pro. I know so many people have Surface Pros, and I get you because I'm a PC girl myself for the most part, except when it comes to the iPad. But no, Procreate is only available on iPads and iPhones. However, if you stick with me, hopefully in a few months, I'm going to have some Photoshop versions out. I'm also looking at similar apps in the Android world, but I haven't really looked that hard yet because I've been wrapped up with this one. So just so you know. Betty says she's ready this time, so she's going to do it along with us. Cool beans. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go into my gallery. And in my gallery, I'm going to have my watercolor canvas. So this is the file that I shared in the Dropbox that I was talking about earlier. And as you can see, we have this textured paper overlay happening here. So that is actually going to be on the very top of all the layers. And I locked that so you can't mess with it on accident because I can't tell you how many times I've done that. But you're just going to want to make sure that you work underneath. So all of the painting you do, you just want to make sure it's underneath this top layer. So if for any reason you accidentally create a layer on top of it, you just want to move this one to the very top. And if you need to unlock it for any reason, you just swipe over to the right and hit unlock. Okay? All right, so in here, we are going to, I'm going to pull my picture up real quick so I have a point of reference. because I really enjoyed that one that we did earlier. So, second, while I pull this up so I can see it. All right, so we're going to be working with the outline ones today. The last few days we've been working with the 3D stamps, and this time we're going to do the white background outline. So one of the things I talk about is how not all Procreate stamps have some of the features that we have. So one of those main features is that I have built in a white background with our tiers and with our stamps, which makes it super, super easy to stack things on top of each other without having to worry about erasing all these lines. So if you want a good example of what I'm talking about when I say that, you can check out the sales page, which I've linked in the comments, and you can kind of see what I mean when I'm talking about stacking all these different lines on top of each other and then having to erase it. It just gets really messy. So the WB is what we're going to be working with. So that stands for white background. And we're going to be working with the round tiers today. And I just want to show you also, while I'm in here, we have SO, right? Which is the simple outline, which is that transparent cake that I was talking about earlier that can kind of get messy. It can just be a few more steps, right? I did include these in case you want them, but if you're not going to use these, you can always just delete these and just keep your backup version in your Dropbox or wherever you store all of your files. So you can delete these if you just want to save some space or you're not going to use them. There is one thing though, we do have the SO round stacks. So we have actually pre-stacked cake. So I would not suggest deleting these because these you can use because we don't actually have that in the white background because it just wasn't necessary. So I just thought I would take some time and explain that because, you know, these are really convenient. And actually, let's just use these because you guys have seen me do the white backgrounds in the Knowledge Hub. So let's use these. So these are pre-stacked, ready to go. What I really love about these is it has the serving size right here, and then it has these sizes of tiers. And then on the stamp itself, it's also going to include that stuff so you can keep it as notes. So let's do, I'm gonna keep it with what I did earlier, which I believe was this one. And I'm gonna select my black and I'm just gonna stamp it down. Okay, so I've just stamped it down right in the middle of my canvas. And as you can see over here, I have some handy notes about each of these tiers and then the serving size, which is just really nice to have, right? I like to keep notes and do my notes on the actual Procreate canvas. That way they're there for me, right? So one of the things I do like to do is come up here to the selection tool and go to the freehand selection tool. And I'm just gonna select all of this and I'm going to swipe 3 fingers down and I'm gonna choose cut and paste. And what that's gonna do is put these in its own layer. I can drag this down to the bottom and this can become my notes layer. I can turn it off so it's not always there and in the way and, you know, just kind of distracting from our beautiful sketch. So now that we have our sketch, I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. But we can always come in on our canvas size too. And then underneath, I know you can't really see very well. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'm gonna change the interface to the light interface so you can see everything turned white. And that makes it so you can see your layers a little bit easier. So that's just a little extra tip there. But I have my tiers here and underneath I'm just gonna add a cake stand. So in my cake stands, I'm gonna come in here and let's select this one here. And I'm just gonna plop it down. Now, this is what I mean about those overlapping lines, right? Once you start to have quite a few of those, that can get really annoying. But with these pre-stacks, it's not too much and we're just gonna fill these with white anyway, so no worries. Now you can see I'm aligning everything to the center. That little line shows up in the center when everything is to the center. So I can do the same thing with my stack. Just make sure that's aligning to the center of the document and everything is lined up. Now what I can do is I'm gonna drop my colors into this one. So I just want them to be white. since we're doing watercolor, you know, I'm not going to try to build any dimension in just yet. I'm going to do that with the watercolor aspect. So, whoops. Okay, there is something though, right? What just happened is because my threshold was too high, it overflowed and went outside of my canvas. So I don't want that. You can tell because that little thing, the cake stand actually disappeared. So a good thing to do is just change your background color while you're doing this so you can kind of see a little bit better when filling. So I'm going to do that again. And instead of letting up on my pencil, you can see the color drop threshold is at 71.8. I'm just going to swipe my pencil over to the left, and then it's just going to fill that cake. And then I'm going to continue dragging and dropping my color. You can see it can be pretty fast when you're doing the stacks like this. Go into my other layer and drag that into white. So when I'm doing watercolor, I just like to keep it all white because I'm going to be painting over top of it. So I'm going to change my background color back a little lighter. We'll keep it somewhat gray just for reference. Okay, so now we have our cake. It was just that easy. We know all of our notes, all that. Super, super easy, right? So we do have a question from Marilyn asking if you can use it on your Mac. I don't think Procreate works on Macs, which is crazy, right? You would think it would, but I don't think it does. Again, though, if you do have a Mac, when we put out the Photoshop version, you should be able to use that on your Mac. So, all right. So now I'm just going to merge this down with my cake stand. That way it's just one solid layer and I can just keep it there nice and tidy, right? And I'm going to drag this down and I'm going to start working on the flowers. Now, I'm going to just kind of give some suggestions based on the fact that a lot of us, right, it's easy for us to just plop, 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 plop flowers down onto our cake. But then when it comes to actually making that cake, that's a lot of flowers. I've done all these different colors that I've committed to, yada, yada, yada. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay down the flowers we want to choose, color them so that all of our colors that, like, let's say we do some dahlias, we want all those dahlias to be the same color because chances are our florist is probably going to only have that dahlia in one color, or we are going to be making these out of sugar and we don't want to be recreating all these different colors and all that, right? So we're going to lay out all of our flowers kind of on the canvas. And that way, first of all, it's really going to help us plan things out later on really easily. But then we have these basically flowers that we can just cut and paste onto our cake. So this is just one way to do it. This is not the way you have to do it. This is just something that I was thinking about today that I thought would be super helpful for planning. So that's the way we're going to do it just for this. Okay, hopefully I made sense there. Let me know if I didn't. All right, so we're gonna come into our flowers and foliage. And you can see there's a ton of flowers here, right? And if you are just watching this for the first time or you haven't checked out the knowledge library, there are simple outlines. And then the one that looks like a black silhouette right underneath it is actually the white background version. So these are kind of just in here to show you what that is. So you might find yourself accidentally selecting this, which is fine. You can just undo, but you want to select the one underneath if you're trying to do the white background version. So we're going to do the white background version. And I am going to not select the black is black, right? The black is black does not work with the white background version. That's the one caveat. So you're just going to go a little above black. Honestly, it really doesn't matter as long as it's just a little bit above, then you'll get that white background. So just remember that. And then we're going to select our flowers. So let's see. I am going to try to recreate what I did earlier because then I don't have to play the guessing game. But I'm going to select this dahlia. So I will select the one right underneath, right? And I'm just going to stamp that down. And we've got it ready there. Now, I'm going to do all of these on the same layer because of the fact that I'm going to use this layer to cut and paste from later on. So we don't have to worry about creating a new layer every time because I'm not overlapping them right now. So this is a new way. It is a little different and I kind of dig it. So, and just another little tip. If you go a little bit lighter with your black, you'll get finer lines. I don't know if you noticed that. Let's just do a comparison. If I go really dark with my black, you can see that that'll give you really thick lines and this will give you nice fine lines. So I usually suggest just going a little bit higher if you want a finer line, okay? And then what else do we want? We want to do the anemone. So there's the anemone, so I'll select the one right underneath it. And there we go. And then let's do peony. I think I want to do, where is it? This is the fun part, is trying to find all the flowers. Okay. And then let's do a little bud. This is one of my favorite little buds. And then one more big flower, and then we'll come in with some filler flowers. So as you can see, there's quite a few flowers here to select from. I really love that one. That one's one of my favorites. And then let's do some fillers. So if you come down to the bottom, you're going to see the leaves and then the smaller filler flowers. So let's select this leaf. We'll have a main leaf there. And then let's do the freesia. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And one last one. Let's do the filler stem number 3. Okay, so we have all of our flowers laid out before us, right? And now I'm going to come up above that layer, create a new layer. I'm going to change the blending mode. So to change the blending mode, you simply touch the little N there, and I'm going to change it to multiply. So this is something you need to do for this technique to work because it's going to basically make the black outline still show through. If we didn't, we would be just painting over the black outline. And then I'm also going to make this a clipping mask. Now, for the watercolor style, you can do watercolor style in a bunch of different ways, right? You can do it a little bit more precise where you stay inside the lines, or you can do it where it kind of flows outside the lines. I'm going to do it where it stays inside the lines, and that's what that clipping mask is going to do. It's going to keep everything inside of the lines. However, when I'm done, I'm going to add a little bit of bleeding here and there just to give it a little bit more of that watercolor feel that I'm going for. But just to like be able to quickly paint, it's really nice to be able to use the clipping mask. Okay. Yes, Carrie, you can watch this later. It will be up as soon as this is over. All right, sorry, I just needed a drink. All right, so I have a color palette already ready to go. This is the color palette that I did share in the Dropbox folder, so this is the one you want to use. And we're gonna do this fuchsia that's right down here. And then I'm sure you're wondering, what kind of brushes are we gonna use, Avalon? Well, we're gonna use brushes that are already inside Procreate. They come with every installation of Procreate, so you don't have to worry about buying new brushes for this. There are some really cool brushes that you can buy that are watercolor brushes, but yeah, honestly, the Procreate ones work just fine, in my opinion. So we have watercolor, and then we have fresco. So these are the two that I'll be using the most. And then we also have in the spray paints, we have some flicks and some splatters. Those are just nice for around the edges later on, but that's pretty much what we'll be using for the majority of the painting process. So I'm going to choose the watercolor brush, and I'm just going to have it at like 8 right now. Put it a little bit higher. And we're going to go around the edge and do that pinker color. And we're just going to be really messy. Sorry. We're going to be really messy about this because we don't have all the time in the world to just put in all these crazy details, right? We want to be just flowing and fast when doing this. So I'm just going to go around the edges, and then I'm going to come in here with yellow, and I'm going to do the inside. And I can overlap a little bit, and it's going to create a little bit of an orange tone happening, right? So this is one of those two-tone dahlias, and we're done. Now, one of the cool things about this brush, though, is that you do have some pressure sensitivity. So depending on how much pressure I'm putting down on my iPad will definitely change the amount of color that's coming out. So for the anemones, I'm going to do this ivory color in the middle here. And I'm literally just going to put this right in the middle, because I want those to basically be white, but with a little bit in the middle. Now, I don't know if anemones even come in that color, but this can also be used as any other basic, petal flower. Not too concerned right now. And then for this one, I'm going to do the same color. I'm going to do all over color. And I'm going to do some yellow in the center. Let that come out a little bit. Super simple, right? All right. For this one, we're going to do this pink. I guess it's more of like a corally type color. And you can see that I'm just trying to blot a little bit to create more of that watercolor type of effect. I'm not too concerned about it being perfect right now, but just to have a few variances of color, I might bring in a little bit of a darker one and come in just where there would be a little bit of shadow between these two petals maybe, and up over here. I don't want it too realistic, right? I don't want to put too much into it. And then I'm going to select that light yellow, and I'm going to do an all over color on this guy. And the darker yellow, and just come in towards the center. And then just a little bit over on the edges here. It's like adult coloring books, but so much easier because you don't have to worry about being super cautious about staying in the lines, right? Love that. I'm going to choose this green here, and I'm just going to do an all over color, like an all over wash, and then just do some blots just to give it a little bit of dimension. It is super fast. It is. It depends on, of course, what you're doing, but to really get something across, it's pretty darn fast. So now I'm just coming in with that same green, and I'm just going to come in through the center there. Just basically, where that green would be starting. And then I think I'm going to do this buttercup yellow just around the tips a little bit. Could have kept them white, but I like that. Okay, for this one, I want this deeper orange, I think. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with. And I'm just coming around and quickly painting the ends here. I'm not worried about getting it in the stem. If I do get it on the stem, it's totally fine, right? It's watercolor. Just mauve in color, and then coming back with the green. Oops, I don't want the green on top of the orange though, so it's gonna come back through. All right, so now we have all of our flowers kind of ready to go. Some more fun things that you can do is you can add some color variation. So if you wanted to maybe play with the hues and saturation, this is super fun. As you guys probably know by now, I love hue, saturation, and brightness adjustment. And we can actually use the pencil for this, which is super cool. And I'm going to choose the soft airbrush actually, not just the regular watercolor. I'm gonna come back here and choose a pencil again. So that means that my soft airbrush is selected, and I just want to see what happens when I paint the ends and maybe a few things through the center. Now, obviously I don't want it that purple color. Maybe not obviously. Some people might like that. That might be the look you're going for. But that's not what's going to happen in nature, right? But I just want to add a little bit of variance there. And now down here in the hue and saturation, I can kind of adjust that and see if I can get just a few more tones in there that I like. And honestly, it'll probably be so slight, right? I think I'm at 54, and it's just bringing in just a few more color variations. Totally not necessary in some cases, but you know, you can have fun with it, especially if you were going with multiple colors for different things. And then once I'm done with that one, I can touch the screen and hit apply, and then maybe come over here and maybe we could add a little bit of yellow to the center of this one. So it's going to be purple when I put it down first, but then I'm just adjusting my hue over here. And we can maybe come in with a little bit of yellow, a little too saturated. And if you don't love it, you can always come and get the eraser and erase some of it and keep some of it there while you're still in the hue and saturation, right? I don't know if you can use the smile, I wonder. Ooh, you can. Tried that before. So that kind of brought a little bit into there. And the reason why, I mean, you could do this with another color, but the reason why I like the hue and saturation is because you can explore different colors, right? So that's just a fun thing you can do there. Okay, so now that we have all of them ready to go, I'm just gonna double check. Okay, we're gonna keep this on its own layer, but we're going to go ahead and merge this down. We're gonna merge this down with the flower layer now. So I'm just gonna hit merge, and that's gonna be one layer. I'm going to duplicate this, and this is for safety's sake. I always just like to make a copy of anything I do. I'm going to turn this off, and this is just going to come down here below the notes, and we're just going to keep this. This is going to be referenced later on. But now I have this layer ready to go, and I can move it off to the side here. And I'm going to bring my cake back in, turn it on. We've got our cake here. Maybe I'll move this up here for now. And then with this layer, I'm just going to start copying and pasting these on top of the cake. It's going to be super fun. We're going to start our arrangement. Now, the way I like to do my arrangements, usually at least my workflow, right? So you guys obviously might have your own workflow, is I'll start with some leaves to kind of frame it out, and then I will come in with my big center flower, and then I'll work in everything else around there. So we're going to come up to the selection, and I'm going to check rectangle just because I find this to be the easiest when selecting these. And I'm really quickly going to show you that I have a quick menu that is going to make this a little bit faster. Instead of me having to come up here every time, I actually have a preference. It's a gesture actually. So when I hold down, this little quick menu comes up and I can hit selection. So all I have to do is hold down, deselect, hold down and hit selection, and it'll pop up. So that's one of the cool things you can do that you can program into Procreate, and that's a whole different tutorial, and I will do that for you guys soon, so don't worry. But if you see me doing that, that's what I'm doing. But in most cases, if you're doing it, you're just going to come up here to the selection. All right, so let's go ahead and select the leaf, and then we're going to hit copy and paste. Okay, so what that does is it puts it into its own layer up here, and now we can select it with our pointer tool and we can bring it up here and put it where we want it. So this is one leaf, and then, oh, by the way, you can either continue doing that or you can just come up here into layers and you can duplicate it a few times. So I know I'm going to want about 5 of these. And now I can take this drag it, twist it. The little green one twists it, by the way. The orange one you most likely will never use. I'll just show you real quick what the orange one does. If I move this over here, the whole selection box changes. And then when I make adjustments, it does it in this direction versus this direction, which if I was in free form and I tried to adjust it in this direction, it would do that. But if I went like this with our little orange box, it would stretch it this way. So just so you know what that does, honestly, you'll probably never use it. Okay, so I'm gonna take this one, bring it here. And one of the things you can do so these don't look so cut and paste all the time is you can come down here and you can flip it horizontally or vertically just to kind of switch it up a little, right? Because they can start to look a little bit cut and paste if you don't do that every once in a while. And of course, you can just use different leaves and different stamps, but when we're doing things quick, super nice to have. So I'm just framing out the section in which I'm going to put the flowers. And of course, you can always move these around. It does not matter. One here. I don't actually know if I had that fifth one. Okay, so now we've got our leaves. Oh, this is a good question. Okay. We have someone asking, any tips on grabbing the flowers to move it? I was having issues. I kept resizing it. I used to do this first when I first started this too. So when you have a layer selected and you have the selection tool, you don't want to try to move it too close. So if your pencil's too close to the edge, it's just going to start resizing it for you, right? You don't want that. So instead, you can see I have my pencil over here and I'm moving it around. So as long as it's far enough out of it, that's probably the best way you're going to be able to do that without having those problems. You can also move it from the center, but it's really kind of easy to accidentally just go off to the side and accidentally resize it. So I just kind of do it from off to the right, which I know probably doesn't seem like it's the most user-friendly, but it's totally fine. You get used to it really quickly. Okay. So now I have all those. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to drag this above these so all the new flowers will show up above these. And we're going to come to our dahlia. I'm going to select the dahlia, copy and paste, and I'm going to pull and not copy and paste. Try that again, copy and paste. Because I'm not on the right layer, I'm sorry. I was on the layer above it, I think. Or not. Huh. Look what that's about. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm crazy. So there is the dahlia, and that's going to be kind of our centerpiece. So I'm just going to put that in the center, and then I'm going to work everything else around it. Come in here, create a new layer, and let's grab these peonies. And of course you can resize it. You want to make sure you're on uniform when you're resizing so that you don't stretch it and make it look weird. That's what we're going for. We're going to put this right here. Duplicate. And we're just going to keep going. So be sure to let me know if you guys have any questions, because that's what I'm here for. This one is pretty straightforward, I know, which is lovely, right? I'm going to size this down just a little bit and put that there. And I'm going to drag it above these. Duplicate. And one of the things I'll sometimes do is actually use the transform tool to kind of give it a little bit of dimension and space. So up here, let's say I want this one to look like it's kind of going back in space like this. I can actually use the distort tool or even the freeform for this, but we're going to use the distort tool. And I showed you guys this yesterday, but I'm just going to pull this out a little bit, pull this out a little bit, and it kind of now is going in at an angle, right? And it looks a little bit flat, so if you want to mess with it even more, you can come up here and you can use the warp tool, and you can literally just pull the center down. Isn't that crazy? It's bananas. But that just kind of gave it that cupped look again. Weird, right? Okay. Back to it. By the way, if you're ever like zoomed in and you just want it to fit the screen again, if you snap really quick like that, it'll fill the screen just like it should. Alrighty. So next up, I want to move the yellow ones around. So we're going to come in here, copy and paste. And make sure you change it back to uniform or it's not going to go anywhere if it's still on warp. And down here. Blowing your mind. That's so good to hear from you, Sarah. I love that. I'm telling you, girl, you would love, love, love this app. It is so much fun. Now, of course, these are the tools that I created for the app, but it's just all over a really fun app for artists. And I'm just duplicating. There, this one's kind of almost got this fall-like look with the colors that I chose. I might brighten them up a little bit later. Now let's get this one. Pull it. Now you can of course size it down a little because I think it's a little too big. This right here. Duplicate. And I'm sure it kind of looks like I'm just going all over the place and I'm moving really fast. But you will get the hang of this and you'll be moving just as fast in no time. It becomes second nature and muscle memory. Like everything, right? And then of course, you know, if you want to move some stuff around, like I want the leaf to come out a little bit more up here, do that. We're almost done with this. How cool is that? How cool is that? I sound like that person. It's always telling you how cool something is. All right, we're gonna take this one, copy and paste. Spin this around and bring this down to the bottom. At least that's where I want it. You can put it wherever you want. Duplicate. Want this one up here. This is quite the full arrangement. I probably didn't even need to go this over the top, but no, why not? When in Rome. Okay. Now going to cut and or copy and paste. Sorry, got totally distracted there. I wasn't even in the layer. Try that again. And then I know I've talked about this a few times, but if we wanted to, we could always change any of these colors with the hue and saturation. I should be an affiliate for hue and saturation. And let's say we wanted this to have a little bit more of a curve to it, right? We could mess with the curve. We could totally do that. We can come back down here to warp. And we can start to mess with the curve. Now, you can start to distort it, but if you do everything kind of equally, and it won't look distorted, right? So now it just has kind of a curve to it. Again, a little bit extra, totally not necessary. And I think that's actually, I don't need another one of those. Okay. So that's the flower arrangement that I have. I am extra. I need a shirt this is extra. That's cool, but I'm techno dumb. Becky, don't worry. It's actually pretty straightforward. I know it looks probably kind of technical to some people, but I promise you could do this. I'm going to turn off that flower layer now, and I'm actually just going to select everything I've done here. So I'm just swiping to the right with all of these layers. I could merge them together into one, but I still want to have the flexibility to change colors if I want to, or move things around if I want to, especially if our client decided that they wanted to change something. Really going to be nice for me to have these in separate layers. So I'm just going to hit group up here, and that's going to group them. So now I can condense it into this really nice and neat little group, and I can actually select both of these and do uniform and bring this towards the center. I can size it up a little bit. I don't suggest sizing up too much on these things because you will start to see some pixelation, but for what we're doing, that is fine. Not in the center. Okay, so now we're gonna add a little bit of color to the cake and to the base, because why not? So this is the cake layer right here, right? So I'm gonna create a new one on top of that. And what are we gonna do? Let's see if you guys know what we're gonna do. This is a pop quiz. I'm gonna read your comments. Yay, I'm so glad you like it. I'm so glad you like it. Okay. All right, so that was me obviously silently reading your comments. We're going to make this, first of all, a multiply layer, right? Because we're doing watercolor, so we're multiplying. Yes, clipping mask can multiply. Oh man, it's not showing me your name, but whoever said that is getting a big digital kiss. See if I can. Heidi, you rock, girl. You're listening. Okay, so clipping mask and multiply. And we're going to go ahead and come up here and go down to our painting, which again, everyone has already in Procreate. And we're going to start with the watercolor, and then we're going to choose the fresco after that. So let's start with the watercolor, and I'm going to choose this blue over here. And looking at that blue, I actually kind of want it a little bit brighter, so I'm just going to bring it up a little bit. I'm going to make my brush nice and big. I think I'm at 35. And we're just going to do an Oliver wash just to get that base down. And then I'm going to start like kind of just bringing in some color off to the side. And as you can see, it kind of has that watercolor feel to it. And I'm just going to layer up just a little bit to kind of create the idea of shadows, but in that flowy watercolor type of feel, right? Then I might bring it down just a little bit in color. I still want it to be saturated. I'm going to come to the fresco one. I'm going to make this one pretty big. This is a really cool one, kind of like a stamp. And you'll see me work with this later on. Let's actually bring another color into this, like a little bit purpley blue. You can see that it's created kind of that watercolor effect. Now later on, we will do an all over like watercolor stamping around the page and the paper, so even more looks like watercolor and stuff is kind of bleeding out a little bit. But we have done our all over color. Now I want the stand to be different though, right? So I'm just going to erase the color that I did there because it's pretty easy and straightforward. And do this in a bunch of different ways though. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you guys how to actually make the lines of the cake look a little bit more hand drawn, right? Because Right now, these kind of look like they were done by a computer. So if you want more of a hand-drawn look, I'm going to show you how to kind of mess up your lines a little bit, which is funny, right? Because most people wouldn't think to do that, but it kind of gives it that more like hand-drawn effect. I'm going to create a new layer on top in between the blue, and we are going to color just the tier. Now, to do that, I'm going to come back here and select this. I come up to my selection tool, and I'm going to hit automatic. Okay. Then I'm just going to select the inside of my cake stand there. And then with that selection still on, I'm going to come back up to this layer. And for this, I'm just going to do some gray tones because it's going to be a white stand. So I just want some gray tones to come in and kind of create a little bit of shadow. Nothing crazy. Just adding some stamps. Other brush. Then I'm going to come in with this darker gray and just create just a little bit of a shadow below the edge of the cake stand. And if it's ever a little bit too strong for you, you can always use the smudge tool and move that around. We can create more of that watercolor effect, right? So something really cool is if you want to use the exact same brush that you were already using, but with another feature, you can go here, right? I can have that brush selected. And then in order for it to be used with the smudge, I just hold down and it'll select that same brush. So that can be nice if you're trying to do something like the watercolor. Okay. So now we have our watercolor base. You don't want to mess with it too much because then it doesn't look like watercolor anymore, right? Okay. Somebody corrected Becky, huh? Thanks, Betty. It's okay, Becky. Don't worry. It happens all the time. It's a very rare name that I have, and it's not a problem. Okay. So, from here, we're pretty much done, but of course, you know, I want to just show you those few extra things, like adding a little bit of color to the actual canvas itself, just to give it a little bit of character, and then of course to change up those lines a little if you want to. These things are extra, you don't have to do them. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, and I'm going to create a new layer underneath everything, right? So it's above the notes layer, but below the cake layer. And I'm going to come back in here, select the blue, and we're just going to do some fun little swooshes and flicks and splatters. So I'm sorry, I didn't even show you what I did. I'm under spray paint and flicks and splatters. So we'll use both of those. We're going to do flicks first. And I'm just going to make it really big. This is just some paint I accidentally got on my canvas. And if it's too much, you know, you can undo as many times as you want until you find the look that you want. That's better. And then of course you can always change the opacity. So if I come to my layer, I hit the N and I bring the opacity down, it'll be just a little bit more transparent. And then let's do some splatters over here, but in a different color. That kind of, whoopsies. Pretty little accident, right? And let's go back to our painting. And we're gonna do the fresco, and we're gonna make this real big. I'm just gonna do some blots of pink over here. Maybe just a little bit right there, just not much, right? Just something. And that kind of really gives it that look. Now, it's a little too much for me, so I'm gonna widen that out a little. That's distracting me now. Okay, so I'm gonna try to erase it with the same brush and see what happens. I'm just gonna erase just a little bit of it because it's going into my, yeah, okay, that's good. Now, if you want that bleeding look behind your cake, like some of the paint just kind of bled, we're gonna come up here and select that blue again. And since we are in that layer behind our cake, we can just come through with the fresco and just come around the edges a little bit. maybe make it look like it bled out just a little. Of course, erase a little too to make it look a little bit more natural. And you can do the same thing with all the flowers, right? You just select that same color. Maybe we do it with the watercolor brush this time, and you can just come around the edge, just make it look like it bled a little. I wouldn't go overboard because then it doesn't feel natural. Just felt like you meant to put them there. Just little smears here and there. Little up here. Remember, it's not going to show up in front of your cake, so if you want it in front of your cake, you're going to want to go onto a layer that's actually in front of your cake. Have a little bit coming off there. And a little here. Of course, you can go much more crazy with this, but that's what I'm going for. Okay. So let's see, last thing, right? I almost forgot. So we're gonna come here into the actual cake layer, and this is just that little trick I was talking about that'll kind of make these look a little bit more hand-drawn. We're gonna come to liquefy, and then we're gonna choose edge, okay? So my settings right now with edge is about 53 with pressure, momentum is 57, and my size is 18. These settings have worked good for me, so if you want to use them, you are more than welcome. But I'm sure, honestly, anyone would do. And you can just fiddle with them until it looks the way you want. But what this is going to do is, remember, we're on the layer with our cake. This is just going to mess with those lines a little bit and make them look a little less perfect, right? So you don't want to go crazy with this. You just want to do it here and there. But it's kind of going to give the imperfectionist feeling that our hand drawing usually gives. So literally not doing much at all. You could even erase some of these lines a little bit so it looks more like a sketch. But you still have that cake that makes sense. Looks a little bit more sketched. You could do these to the flowers too, but I don't really think it's necessary. Okay, so just a little, a little extra. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it. Do let me know if you have any questions. Super fun. Let me just come back to the notes section real quick. So you can gather all of these, right? Let's just gather all of these into one group. We can turn that all off and then turn our notes back on. So now we have our notes, which lists all of our cake sizes over here, the serving size, all of that. But we also have our flowers. So one of the things that you might find helpful at this point is you can turn on your cake and you can count how many of each of these flowers there are and then write them underneath. So let's bring this over here. Now don't let it get off of the canvas, because if it goes outside of the canvas, it will be cut off. So that's something that I learned the hard way. So if you can't see your flowers, you can always move them wherever you need them to be. But these are just notes, of course, and we can choose the pencil. In sketching, there's a pencil. I just find that to be the easiest to write with. Make sure you're on that layer, and then I can be like, okay, I have 3 of these, I have 2 of these, 5 of these, 3 of these, and this can just be something that helps with your prep, right? 2 of these, whether it be your actual florist that you're trying to communicate with, or if it's just you're making sugar flowers and you just want to have a really straightforward guide in front of you, right? So, and then you have all your colors too. This is where you can start making notes on any of those things and keep them separate, but still there. Okay, there's one more thing I'm gonna show you because So many of you guys have the digital planner too. I just want to show you how to get your sketch into your digital planner and onto your consultation sheets, right? Because just so you know how to do that. First, I'm going to take a drink. Elaine, you totally can do that. You can do that. Anyone can do this. I tell you, anyone can do this because the shapes are already made. You're just coloring like a coloring book. Okay. So we're going to open up. I haven't done this in a while, so hopefully I have Good Notes. All right, so Good Notes is my app that we have the digital planner on. So I'm going to open up the digital planner, and actually what I'm going to, well, we'll just open up the digital planner. Oh, here's a test that I did. I can actually delete this, I think. File. Been in here. Okay. So that's how you select. So this is old. Let's just delete that. Okay. So let's say we are inside our planner and we are writing out our consultation notes to be sent over to our client. We're going to come back into Procreate. I'm going to come in here, and there's a few ways you can do this, right? You can come up here to share, and you can just save it as a JPEG straight onto your device. You can also just come up here to copy canvas, and it'll copy your entire canvas for you. And you can come back into Good Notes and you can paste. Now I just have to remember how to do this. It's just been so long since I've been. There is a way to do this. Paste. Here we go. So now we have pasted this right in here and we are ready to go with our consultation. We can then come in through here and just do all of our notes and send this off. If this is what we were doing, right? We could also just send off the sketch just directly by saving it as an image. You can also save it as a PDF. So there's a few different options here. You can save it as a PDF. You can save it as a PNG. You can even save it, y'all. Okay. For my digital homies out there who love Photoshop and who might be like, okay, but I want to take this into Photoshop and do something else with it. You can save this as a Photoshop file with all of the layers intact. So that means that everything will be on its own layers with its own blending modes, whatever blending modes you have. That'll all be there. Bring it in. Okay. I have talked off your ear, and I think that is it. All right, guys, I really, really hope you enjoyed this. I know I enjoy making it, so that makes me happy. Super excited to see people in here talking about the sketching tools and how much they love them. Oh, I'm double. Look at it's me. Oh, me twice. Okay, so anyways. Oh yeah, the digital planner is amazing. I'll have to do a separate live on that. When I did the digital planner in the first place, which was last year, I didn't do a great job of promoting it. So I really need to show you guys all the things that the digital planner do. But now you can use them together. Really, really awesome. And all right, I think that's it. So thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with me. This is the last live of the week. Obviously, it's Friday, so I'm taking the weekend off. That's right. I'm doing it. But I will see you on Monday. I'm going to be doing another live to kind of close out the sale. Remember, the sale ends on Monday at midnight for all these sketching tools. And then from there, you know, I will, of course, pop in the group, hopefully weekly and from time to time to do sketches and tips and all that. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. But all right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.